This about you.
You running out of time.
Time for what?
Crazy life and death for us. What you finna do?
I don't mean no offense, but what are you?
I'm Uncle Clifford. What are you?
What the world won't let me be.
Yeah, what's going on, fam? It's your man, VACAY-JAYTV. Yes, I'm back with another video. This is for P-Valley Season 2, Episode 7 recap. And yes, we were waiting 2 weeks for this episode. And absolutely, I think it was worth the wait. Definitely. As we get into this, we're going to recap, break it down, as you already know. So definitely, this one was intense for real. Another one from Katori Hall. Before we get into that, make sure you check out all the episode recaps that I've done. Definitely stay up with the playlist. And make sure you check out, of course, the Episode 7 live recap and review where we go a little bit deeper. So let's get into P-Valley Season 2, Episode 7 recap. So the name of this episode is Jackson, and it reads, Uncle Clifford wrestles with her future while opening the door to the past, and meanwhile, Mercedes struggles with the complexities of motherhood. So the episode opens up with our grandmother, Ernestine. Ernestine is up there, and she is singing her heart out, and she is looking beautiful as ever, right? And this is her place. We go way back. Looks like this is the 60s where she's singing a cover song and she is doing her thing. You know, when people are dancing, people are loving it. And then we fast forward a little bit and we go to the 70s. We see the bell bottoms, the afros. We see everybody having a great time. And yes, grandmother Ernestine, she got that new look, different look. She got that wig on. She's looking good and singing those songs. And people are really enjoying themselves, having fun. You know, this is a place where a lot of folks were having fun. They came to dance. They came to have a good time. And then we fast forward up into the 80s where we got the afros, you know. We got the little Jerry curls going on as well. And yeah, grandmother Ernestine is doing her thing, you know, with her 80s outfit, singing that song. There's a lot of transactions going on, probably, you know, some prostitution going on, but there's also some breakdancing going on. That's how we know it's the 80s, right? And then who do we see? Wow, for the first time, we see little Uncle Clifford and his mother, right? This is crazy, right? And yeah, we see that Uncle Clifford, born and raised in the 80s, and we see his mama, Beulah, for the first time. And she's like, yeah, look at your grandmother Ernestine up there doing her thing, right? Now we fast forward to present day, and it looks like grandmother Ernestine is not looking good at all. She's at the club, right? Dressed in her nightgown, but she sees this vision of a lady coming through. And who is it? It's her daughter, Beulah. That's Uncle Clifford's mom, talking about, yeah, it's time to rest, get a drink, and lay down. So Beulah is calling her. You know, she has passed. We have no idea how she passed, but she's calling grandmother Ernestine to come to the other side. But grandmother Ernestine is not ready. She said, not yet, not yet. And again, this is the first time we see Uncle Clifford's mom. And yeah, it's not looking too good for our grandmother Ernestine, as she is, yes, dwindling and going down with her illness. Now we see Uncle Clifford, and Uncle Clifford is in the club. And yes, there was a meeting where Haley and Uncle Clifford needed to talk. And they're talking about whether or not they're going to sell the pink. Now, of course, Uncle Clifford's talking about the history and about grandmother and everything. And Haley's all about the future. You know, she wants to sell a club. She wants, you know, Uncle Clifford to get what he deserves. And yes, absolutely, to get that money and get out, right? And yeah, Uncle Clifford really wants to kill Haley, but Uncle Clifford's like, we need to sit down and talk. And, you know, Uncle Clifford gets upset because he's like, yeah, you know, grandmother got the Rona and everything. And she's like, listen, 6 feet. And, you know, they go into how, yeah, they offered them $5 million already. Promised Land offered $5 million. But she doesn't want to take it because she wants to get her $10 million. And, you know, Uncle Clifford's like, yo, it's all about you. And she's like, well, you know, I didn't put up that $250,000. You know, this is like basically like blood money. Like I sacrificed everything and my daughter died. And Uncle Clifford proceeds to tell Haley, like, listen, your baby gone. Like, it's not about your baby anymore. She gone, and that really upsets Haley. Now we got Mercedes. She talking to Shell, and she's like, listen, I'm going to take Terica off your hands while you get yourself together. She's like, make sure she don't do this. And she like, make sure you don't drink up, the whole house, right? So Mercedes goes in. She sees Terica holding her belly. And she's like, listen, you got to make a decision because we don't got that much time, right? You got to decide what you're going to do. And, Terica tries to deflect and say, yeah, she needs to write this term paper and everything else like that because she's like, what you want to do? So she's telling Terica, like, yo, this is not a game. Like, you need to really decide what you're going to do. Meanwhile, we see the aftermath. We see Little Murder at Uncle Clifford's house, and he's reminiscing about, how he came to the house. Uncle Clifford burned, his clothes because it had blood on it and everything, and how upset he was when he came to Uncle Clifford's house. And he's just trying to, wind down and just try to relax, but he's just reminiscing about, Big Teak, rest in peace, taking himself out, putting a strap to his head, the whole nine, right? So he, again, Little Murder is definitely traumatized over a lot of this that's going on. And he's just reminiscing about his boy, reminiscing about, Big Teak and everything. But he hears grandmother Ernestine coughing and everything. So he tries to get himself together, try to just get out of his feelings and try to, wipe his tears and just really try to tend to grandmother Ernestine. So he goes in there with a mask on and she's coughing. And he's like, rise and shine. It's time to wake up. And she's like, Isaac Hayes, is that you? And he's like, no, it's LaMarcus. He's like, who? He's like, Little Murder. She's like, I like that better. And he's like, yeah, it's time to eat. He's like, nah, Uncle Clifford's chicken gonna mess me up. He's like, nah, I made you a hot plate. And she's smelling it. She's like, I smell collard greens. I smell all this good stuff, right? He's like, okay, you still got your senses, right? And she's like, listen, you keep cooking like this, an old lady gonna keep you around. And he's like, stop playing with me. And Ernestine's like, I'm not talking about me. I'm not talking about me. But she also says, I smell something else. I smell death on you. Last night I smelled death with all that blood. And that definitely affects Little Murder. Now we shoot over to the corner store, and we see, Derek, kids, and we see a battered Keyshawn. You can't really see a lot of her bruises, but yeah, we can tell. And he's trying to make light, like, yeah, let's get some moon pies. Let's do this. Let's do that. With all of this going on, he's still trying to, make nice with her. But she sees in the corner, at the end of the aisle, she sees Haley looking, right? And she sees her looking like, yo. So she tells Derek, hey, listen, I need to go get some makeup so, I can cover, these bruises or whatever. And just so she can get away and talk to Haley, right? Get away from Derek and the kids. So she rolls down the aisle and she goes and she sees your girl, Haley. And Haley's looking at her like, man, I guess you would be here. I figured you would be here, right? And she's like, listen, you didn't get a chance to use my strap, right? You didn't get a chance to use my strap. And, Haley, she really is concerned. But Keyshawn is like, yeah, making excuses. Like, yeah, I couldn't because, I got the kids and I got this. And she's like, there's other ways to get away. She's really concerned and trying to help Keyshawn get away from Derek, get her kids out of there, And she probably feels bad because she didn't get that opportunity to get away with Autumn, her daughter, right? So now we shoot back to Uncle Clifford's house. Uncle Clifford comes back from the meeting. She's concerned, so she runs upstairs to see if Grandmother Ernestine's okay. And she's asking, LaMarcus, hey, did you take care of this? What's her temperature? What's her sugar levels? And, your boy LaMarcus definitely is on top of it, taking care of Grandmother Ernestine, just like, Uncle Clifford would want. And they're really concerned about her. And, yeah, they know she definitely has the Rona, and she's not looking too good. But they're going to do their best to help Grandmother Ernestine out. So, they get to talking about a lot of different things. But he's like, listen, I got a plate for you. And yeah, Uncle Clifford definitely is feeling what's going on as far as the hot plate and as far as the meal that LaMarcus puts together. Let's find out that he's definitely like a chef, right? And, he's like, yeah, what's going on? And Uncle Clifford is definitely upset about, the pink and everything. But tells him that, yeah, they offered him $5 million. And he's like, yeah, well, that's 1.6 million for you, you know? And he's like, okay, little calculator. I see you calculating. He's like, so what you gonna do? You think I should sell it? And, you know, Little Murder's like, you do whatever you want to do. It's totally up to you. But Uncle Clifford's like, yeah, how you doing? You know, as far as the other night is going, he's like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm all right. You know, he's trying to play it off. And, you know, Uncle Clifford's like, you sure? Are you sure about what's going on? And, you know, they're really showing concern for each other in this time. But LaMarcus really doesn't want to talk about it. You know, he really doesn't want to talk about what happened. And so Uncle Clifford's like, listen, I'm going to find you some clothes, and we're going to go from there. Now, we are in the car, and your girl Terica is singing the WAP song, right? At the top of her lungs. Mercedes is looking at her, and she is just like, WAP, WAP. And yeah, Mercedes is like, are you crazy to be singing that song in your condition at this point? So Terica's like, oh, you concerned now? You really concerned? You know, like they didn't have to talk. It's like, we had to talk. We had to talk, you know, and, you know, we had to talk about, you know, the birds and the bees and everything else like that. And they really kind of going back and forth. You know, Terica still has her feelings about how she wasn't a good mother to her. But yet now she's showing concern, right? So, you know, now as they're rolling down the road, they see, you know, Pastor Woodbine's mayoral, you know, billboard. And really it makes, you know, Mercedes upset, but it's a reminder of now what she needs to do. So they were supposed to go to the pediatric in Chucalissa, but she passes that. And she's like, oh, we're not going there. Where are we going? It's like, oh, we're going to Jackson. It's like, we're going to Jackson. Why are we going to Jackson? Well, we're going to Jackson for a consultation. She's like, anybody that goes to Jackson, it's not just for a consultation. It's like, well, you know, you got to decide what you want to do, whether you want to keep it or not. She says, pull over. And yeah, Terica throws up. So it's clear. And Mercedes is really on some like, yo, this is like it's time to make a decision type of situation, because the further along you go, the harder it's going to be to abort if you decide to abort. But she's scared because she heard that if she aborts, she gets cancer. And Mercedes is like, you ain't going to get no cancer from aborting a baby. What are you talking about? You don't even know. She's like, listen, this is not a game. Like, you have to decide what you're going to do. You know, it's life and death when it comes down to, you know, this baby. And you got to decide. And, you know, Terica really still doesn't know what she wants to do. She's trying to decide what she wants to do. She just doesn't want to end up like Mercedes. She doesn't want to end up being a bad mother. She wants to be a good mother if she decides to keep it, you know. But really, Mercedes is very concerned. And she's trying to be there the best way she can without forcing her own will on her. Now, back at Uncle Clifford's house, we see LaMarcus. He's cleaning up the couch. And he turns on his phone finally, and he sees all these missed calls and messages talking about, yeah, the song that he did with Tina Snow is blowing up. Your boy, Wody, calls your boy LaMarcus. And he's like, yo, man, where you been, man? We've been trying to call you, letting you know that the song is blowing up. We got to go back on tour. You know, we already missed a couple of things, and we missed out, you know, because I couldn't get in contact with you. He's like, word, we're going back on tour for real. It's like, yeah, man, that song is blowing up with Tina Snow. And yeah, we definitely got to get you back out there, man. So he's talking about Big Teak and what happened with Big Teak and what happened with the body. And Wody's like, listen, we took care of the body. We took care of everything. And yeah, your boy Wody feels bad about what's going on, but he took care of everything. You know, Wody knows how to take care of things. But again, LaMarcus is about to cry again. But, you know, he hears a knock and stuff going on upstairs. And it's Uncle Clifford just moving, you know, stuff around, looking for some clothes for Little Murder. And he's like, you know, who invited you up here? He's like, well, I came up here because I heard something going on. I thought you know, fell out or something. So Little Murder's looking around, and he's like looking at this and looking at that, looking at, you know, old shirts and stuff like that. And he's like, yo, you really wore this shirt back in the day and everything. And, you know, kind of reminiscing based on some old clothes that, you know, Uncle Clifford had. He's like looking at stuff like, I ain't even going to ask what this is about, right? And, you know, LaMarcus is going through, you know, everything that Uncle Clifford has. And, you know, Uncle Clifford's like basically inviting him into her world. And he's like, oh, you got this bag from back in the day? And, you know, Little Murder know about this little pocketbook bag. And he's like, yeah, I had that since, you know, it was my first pocketbook or whatever. So, you know, Little Murder's like, yo, have you always like been this way? Like, is this you? This is like you right here? And he's like, yeah, and he's like, no disrespect, but who are you? What are you? He's like, I'm Uncle Clifford. What are you? And LaMarcus is thinking about it. He's like, yo, I'm what the world doesn't want me to be or won't let me be. And, Uncle Clifford sees what's going on, that he definitely has that identity crisis, finds some clothes, gives him some clothes. And yeah, LaMarcus, Little Murder, he looks on the mirror and sees that Uncle Clifford kept those postcards that he sent her while he was on tour. And he's like, what's your favorite card? He's like, the one talking about I look pretty in red. And, they having a little moment there where, he definitely realizes that all this time, that Uncle Clifford cares. But, Uncle Clifford's trying to play it off like she doesn't really care, and that, what happened on murder night really affected him and everything else like that. So, Little Murder apologizes as to what he was doing. And Uncle Clifford's like, listen, you wasn't ready. You wasn't ready to deal with it. I understand. I totally understand that you wasn't ready to, be in this world yet. And you wasn't, ready to identify yourself. So they hear the door open and Uncle Clifford runs downstairs and they're looking outside and they figure, yep, it's not Keyshawn, y'all. It was Grandmother Ernestine running out of the door, leaving the house, and they don't know where she went. So, of course, they're going to go on a hunt to find Grandmother Ernestine. So now we see Mercedes and Terica. And being a teenager and definitely while being pregnant, she needs to go to the bathroom. They're going on a long trip to Jackson, which is definitely not close to Chucalissa. So, Mercedes is looking in the window, telling her, hey, hurry up. But she sees this mother and daughter and they're talking and looks like a very intense conversation. So as she's looking on to this conversation, she is now reminiscing of the conversation she had with her mother, Patrice, right? Patrice Woodbine back in the day. And they're eating or whatever at the diner. And, they're talking. And, yeah, this is a young Mercedes looking around. And she sees this old dude looking at her, right? These old nasty dudes just looking, right? And they're talking about things. And Pastor Woodbine's like, listen, I'm kind of light. And she sees her looking at that old guy. She's like, listen, why don't you go ahead and do your thing? Like she was pimping her or something like that. And Mercedes is like, nah, I'm good. I got it, right? So she tries to pull out some money, but she sees, Pastor Woodbine, she wasn't a pastor at the time. She looks and sees a condom. And she's like, what is that? She's like, money. I'm getting money. It's like, no, what's that other thing right there? Is that a condom? Are you having sex? Are you having sex? And she's telling her, yeah, I'm having sex with this, this guy named Cortez, and he loves me and all this and that. And Patrice, she just goes off. She's like, yeah, you better not be having sex, and you better not get pregnant. What is wrong with you? And turn around, she starts to beat her down right there in the diner in front of everybody. Like really starts to pound on Mercedes, a young Mercedes in that diner. I mean, it's wild how abusive, Patrice was with Mercedes. And now we understand why they always had a terrible relationship. So now we see Terica looking at some messages and looking at stuff. And she smiles. She's like, who you talking to on there? She's like, oh, that's my boyfriend. Da-da-da-da. And to find out he's an artist. He's like, he's an artist. And she shows him a picture of her, that he drew of Terica. It's like, yeah, he loves me and everything. And he said, he wants to keep the baby. And Mercedes is like, baby, what are you going to do? Oh, we going to get a job. What really is a 14-year-old going to do? Getting a job part-time. Do you understand how expensive, like, diapers are? Like, seriously, trying to give her a reality check that it's going to take more than a part-time job to raise a baby. So she proceeds to say, well, he loves me, and I know you're mad about that because you ain't never have love. And Mercedes just slaps in her face. She says, you know what? When I become a mother, I'm going to make sure I never slap my daughter like the way you slap me, right? And yeah, Mercedes is feeling bad about it, but she's very angry at the same time trying to help her out. So now we're in the woods and we see Uncle Clifford calling grandmother's name. She sees that grandmother's taking off certain things, her nightgown and taking off, her robe. And they're finding a little trail of little things that she's taking off as they're going closer and closer. She lost her slipper, going closer and closer to the Mississippi River. She sees she's taking off, couple of items. She's like, what is going on? And they're like, yeah, the closer and closer they get into the river, they're thinking, yeah, she's about to jump in the Mississippi River. So now we're finally at Jackson, at this place where, people obviously have abortions, and we have the protesters outside. We have Mercedes and Terica walking in, and they are like pro-life, pro-life. And you see all the signs, and they're absolutely protesting, anyone that's going in there to try to abort a baby. Terica's putting her head down, and they are really just screaming and yelling as they are walking into this facility. And people definitely have feelings about this, strong feelings about, whether or not they're going to abort. So she tries to grab Terica's hand. Terica pulls away, like, get off me. And, they walk inside together. And yeah, these folks are definitely passionate about how they feel. Mercedes turns around, right? As Terica goes inside, she turns around, and who does she see? She sees a vision of her mama, right? Because we know that her mama forced her to have Terica. And Mercedes never had a choice. She never had a choice, right? So now we're inside, and we see that, the nurse is taking care of everything and showing the baby to Terica, right? Saying that, she's about 14 weeks, right? And she's looking, and she's surprised, and Terica actually grabs Mercedes' hand now, right? She's like, that's my baby. She's like, yeah, that's your baby. And she's like, are you going to, suck the baby out of me? And, the lady's like, hey, listen, if that's your choice, if that's what you choose to do. And, she says, yeah, you're in your first trimester pretty much. And she has to decide what she wants to do soon, because at a certain point, it's going to be kind of like too late, or it's going to be harder to do. So Mercedes is like, listen, how much time do we have? She's like, listen, do we have to do it now? She's like, you don't have to do it now, but you got 24 hours pretty much after this examination to decide what you want to do. So, of course, Terica definitely has concern. Now back at the Mississippi River, we see our grandmother, Ernestine, and she is delirious. She's trying to walk into the river. Of course, we see Uncle Clifford and Little Murder roll up like, no, don't do it. What are you doing? Don't go in that river. And she's like, no, I need to go in the river. I need to go. It's time for me to go. It's time for me to see Beulah, right? And it's a real sad moment, y'all. It's real sad how Grandmother Ernestine, she's ready to pass. She's ready to go on that other side. And she's calling out for Beulah. And he's like, Beulah, who's Beulah? And, man, Uncle Clifford is upset. He's like, that's my mother. And, yeah, look at Grandmother Ernestine. She is just not looking good. That Rona has her all messed up. She is pretty much done, but Uncle Clifford ain't having it. She's like, I need the water. Get the water to me. Get the water to me. If I can't go in, get the water to me. So, Little Murder takes one of the, pieces of clothing, puts it in the river, soaks it, and then brings it back to Grandmother, right? And yes, we see Uncle Clifford is very, very upset about Grandmother, right? Loves Grandmother. So Little Murder takes the cloth and runs the water down Grandmother's face. Like, it's a real sad moment, y'all, for real. Like, and then she touches, Little Murder's face, and then she passes out. And, man, she's like, Grandmother, trying to wake her up. And, yeah, LaMarcus is just like, hey, her fingers is blue. Like, we got to get her out of here. So they finally get her out of there, away from the Mississippi River. Meanwhile, back at the hotel, we see kids are jumping in the pool, and Mercedes and Terica's by the pool. And Mercedes like, man, they need to teach these kids not to splash people that don't want to get wet. And she's like, that's what kids do, and splash. And then she splashes Mercedes. And they have a little moment, joking moment or whatever, and which is kind of cool, right? But then we see this dude walking around looking at Terica, smiling. And Mercedes like, what you looking at, R. Kelly? What you looking at, R. Kelly? She only 14 years old. And then he looks away. And then he walks around the pool. She's like, yeah, you better run. You better walk away. It's like, wow. That's right, Mercedes. Protect your baby. Because, you already know what's going on out here, right? So, again, they're talking about what's going on. She's like, you see them kids over there? That's going to be your future if you decide this is what you want to do. You have to deal with the kids and everything that comes with being a mother. And, she's just saying that she wants to be a better mother. And she's talking about how, asking the questions about what it's like. And Mercedes, again, is pleading with her for her to decide what's best for her. Not what's best for the baby, not what's best for Mercedes, and not even what's best for Shell. She has to decide what she wants to do. So she's looking at those mothers with the babies, and yeah, the babies are definitely going off. So she's really, really trying to think about what's best for her and her future. But Mercedes is there to kind of be her guide. She's trying to be the best mother that she can be. At this point, that's all that she can do. But she has to allow her to decide what she wants to do. And Terica definitely has these moments where she's asking her questions about motherhood, about, Patrice, and about their relationship and why the relationship is so rocky and why it is the way it is, right? So now, grandmother Ernestine, she's on a stretcher. And they finally called, 911 because they can't help her anymore, right? They need to have her go in the hospital, but she's like, I don't want to go because I'm never going to come back. And she's so scared. And Uncle Clifford is trying to just reassure her it's going to be all right. And they're like, listen, sir, we have to go. And LaMarcus is like, nah, it's her, not he, it's her. So he's like, it's ma'am. So yeah, it's very sad what's going on. Grandmother, nobody wants to see their grandmother going to, an ambulance and everything else like that. Nobody wants that. I don't care who you are. Nobody wants to see their mother or their grandmother, a person that they care for so much, just be wheeled away like that. So now we're in the hotel room, and Terica's like, listen, we got to stop by and get some better pants because these pants are too tight and everything. And she's like, that's why you need to decide what you want to do. This is not a game, like seriously. And she's getting real serious and stern with Terica. And Terica's like, I still don't know what I want to do. And, they're really talking about how she doesn't want to be a bad mom and she wants to be better. And she still is like, how come you didn't come get me? Like, and she again, Mercedes, like, they're not going to let a stripper do this and that. I had to get that school up, just so I could have a legitimate job. And she runs into the bathroom. And Mercedes is looking at herself in the mirror. And what does she see? She sees Patrice. And she sees Patrice as herself. And she doesn't want to be, right there, she doesn't want to be like her mother. So she goes to the door and she pleads with Terica to let her know that she really, was with Cortez and she was forced to have her. But she really is happy that she had her, even though she's, doing the best that she can. She says, I'm trying to be a good mother. I'm even trying right now, and basically she kind of saying like, I really love you no matter what. She didn't necessarily say that, but she's really showing that she's concerned for her and that she wants to be better. She's just trying to be better, and she's still trying even right now. So Terica comes out and they sit down and they have their moment. And it's obvious, Terica at this point, she knows that it's coming down to the wire. And Terica is very scared. She's very scared. And she's allowing, Mercedes to be what she can be, try to be the best mother and woman to her that she can. And she's letting her know that she has to decide what she wants to do. This episode was really about Terica deciding what she needed to do, right? So we see Uncle Clifford's in the shower, and yeah, Uncle Clifford is very, very upset. I mean, not only upset because of what's going on with grandmother, but the fact that grandmother says she wanted to go see Beulah, which is his mom, and he hasn't seen his mom in years. We still don't know how his mother passed. So now Uncle Clifford comes out of the bathroom, and who does he see? He sees your boy Little Murder, and he's all dressed up with the thong. He's playing Cisco because Uncle Clifford called Little Murder Cisco. He's like, you don't know about Cisco? He's like, yeah, I know about Cisco, right? So he's playing the thong song and he's dancing and all this and that. He's like, yeah, teach me how to do this and teach me how to dance like that, right? So he's trying to cheer Uncle Clifford up, and Uncle Clifford seems to be having a good time. He's trying to dance and do all types of crazy stuff to kind of just lighten the mood because it's real, real heavy, right? So, they're laughing. He's like, yeah, you think I didn't know about Cisco? I know about Cisco. I know about the thong song and everything else like that. So, they have a moment, but still, Uncle Clifford is very, very upset as to what's going on with grandmother, and what's going on as far as his memory of his mother. It was something obviously traumatic that happened to his mom. And, Little Murder's just trying to be there for Uncle Clifford in this time. So now it's the next day, and we see Mercedes and Terica. And yep, it's time. It's that time, and it's that day. So, Terica's just like, listen, should I keep it? Should I not? Mercedes is like, yo, it's up to you. I'm going to give you the keys, and you go and drive, right? Because at first, Terica wanted to drive, and Mercedes was like, hell no. But now, Mercedes, she's like, listen, you have the keys. You go and drive to whatever you want. Your destiny is totally up to you, and you're going to decide which was the best thing. So Terica's driving, and they're on the highway. And yeah, she's leaving it up to Terica as to what she's going to do. She's going to allow her to decide what she wants to do with the baby. And she has a choice. And Jackson is to the right? The exit is right there to go to Jackson. So what does Terica do? She turns on that right signal. And yeah, looks like Terica is going to go back to Jackson. And Mercedes, she is happy. Why is she happy? I don't think she's really happy that she's going to abort the baby. I think she's more so happy that, she gave her a choice and she is deciding for herself what she wants for her future. So now it's after and they're on the couch and, they see Woodbine for Mayor, the commercial on the TV. And, it definitely is upsetting to Terica, but she's like, listen, don't worry about Patrice or whatever. Don't let that, upset you. It's just noise. You control the noise, right? So they're sitting there, and Terica says, Mama. And this is the first time she called her mama. Of course, Mercedes is happy about that. And she's like, listen, am I going to go to hell for what I did? Obviously, she aborted the baby. And Mercedes says, listen, if you going to go to hell, I'm going to be right there with you. I'm going to be right there with you because, you did what you did, but I'm going to have your back. I'm going to be your mama. So now we're back at the house, and we see Keyshawn and the baby. And we see somebody roll up to the door, and Derek is like, do I know you? And yes, it is Haley at the door. She's like, yeah, oh, that's Haley. She's from the club. We know each other from the club. So she's happy to see us stop by and come by, right? And yeah, we see Haley. Haley's trying to do her best to really try to help out Keyshawn because she knows the situation. She's been in this situation before. And she says, listen, I got a gift for the baby. I want to come by and give it to, the baby. So, yes, Keyshawn is happy to see her, right? So they go into the room. The baby's a little upset. And she's like, can I try to calm her down? Can I try to calm the baby down? So, she's carrying the baby. And she proceeds to tell the baby a little story about a girl named Haley who never had a place to stay. She was lost in the woods and a baby fell out of the sky and that the baby pretty much changed her life. And she thought everything was great and she had a family and everything was all good. But underneath the moon, she saw, the man, that his teeth were knives and that his eyes were all evil and everything. And he built her a castle and she was trapped. And she proceeded to, cry. And all she had was a bag of tears. And she poured out the bag. And yeah, she swam, but the baby couldn't. She knew how to swim, but the baby couldn't. And of course, Keyshawn, she don't get it. And she's like, what are you talking about? She's like, listen. She gave her the bag, showed her what was in the bag, and it was a burner phone that was in that bag. And she said, she gives her the baby, and she says, my name is Haley Colton. Not Autumn, my name is Haley Colton. And you give me a call when you're ready to learn how to swim, right? Saying that if she don't call, and if she waits too late, that her baby can die the same way Haley's baby died. Like, we don't want that. Nobody wants that. So I think Keyshawn is slowly but surely getting that, yeah, Haley is there to help her get away from Derek and get out of this whole entire situation because, yes, Keyshawn is trapped. So that is the recap for P-Valley Season 2, Episode 7, right? Guys, you already know. Hey, let me know your thoughts. Drop your thoughts and your comments below. You already know how we do. This, again, was a deep episode. So if you're new to the channel, definitely go ahead, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. go ahead, do me another favor. Hit that like button. And absolutely, I appreciate you all for your love and your support and for watching and for commenting. I see you and I appreciate you all. So again, if you thought this video was good and you liked this video, definitely check out this next one right here. Until next time, salute.